Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the summary for the day of 1284 for the 30th of August. There's no frontline changes report because there's only one frontline change and that was the capture of Komishuvaha over in the Koma front, which is this piece here. I did cover this in the yesterday's SITREP. So because that's one piece, no point doing one full report just on that. So we're going to jump straight to the frontline changes over at the Sumi front. So over in the far north zone in the Sumi region, there is the mention of Krenidivka by the Russian Defense Ministry. Probably is referring to this piece here, this town here. So some shelling. This is pretty near the border, so it makes sense. Long time ago, there was in May, end of May, around a few months ago, 3 months ago, there is shelling reported at Chevone. So maybe this is so it's not a surprising thing that the Russians are shelling that position. So yeah, but sometimes it is very interesting why the Russians need to shell Ukrainian positions that's very far away from the front line. Like, what is the core objective? To do all these things, it's really hard to tell. Like, do you really want to weaken this point to facilitate an offensive into this region just off Chernihiv Oblast? I'm not sure. So sometimes these are signals of possible future operations, but from experience so far, it doesn't look like it's going to be anything for now. Over in the Sumi region, this is Sumi. So this is the Sumi front. Nothing over in the Tekino sector. There's nothing here. Over in the northern flank, we have the some usual stuff. We have fighting reporter at Stepney, Kindrativka, Oleksievka, as well as Yunakivka. Very few arrows, I would say, compared to the usual. Stepney is a bit of the more of this unusual one, which is also known as Leniske. The last attack was on the 19th, so this is a bit of a outlier. Otherwise, the rest is pretty standard. I don't think there's anything special about the rest. So yeah, but the fighting is ongoing still. So no, this battle just don't stop. But yeah, pretty expected. Just that I think the Russians have not established the buffer zone the way how they want. I'm quite sure the Russians want full control of Kondrativka and Dryevka, and straighten the front line at Verashkine, because Ukrainians did previously entered into the rear of Verashkine. But there's no news about the Ukrainians capture of Verashkine. So yeah, and I'm quite sure the Russians want Stepney and Konstantinivka, Novo Konstantinivka as well, to make the buffer a bit more buffy. So anyway, that's all from the Sumi front. We go to the Kharkiv front. Kharkiv city. Over at the Kharkiv front, this is the wider Kharkiv front, but there's nothing much in that far away. So we have fighting reporter in Kozacha Lopan, Klipoke, as well as Voshansk. So this is the three places. I can zoom in a bit so you can see a bit better. Kozacha Lopan, there's some attacks reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Ukrainians mentioned Klipoke, so that's the thing here. Both sides mentioned Voshansk. So this is usual, the typical, this is like the Stalingrad of the Ukraine war, where endless fighting for a totally flattened city continues for no reason whatsoever. So, and then there is a geolocation of a Russian airstrike on this building here, south of the industrial zone, where the Russians have established some kind of foothold. So yeah, like as if it's not flat enough, they have to drop more bombs on that. So that's all from Kharkiv front. We go on to the Voreshna front. This is Voreshna. There is nothing over the north. This Milove sector again, still nothing happening there. Yesterday also nothing happened. Over in the Voreshna front, we only have fighting reporter at Kenyamka and at Novoselivka. I need to down the DPI because it makes my arrow easier to draw. So yeah, see my arrow is now prettier. So anyway, Novoselivka is is not mentioned in a long time since the 8th of August. The previous attack was at Vyholivka. This was yesterday's report. So this time around, the attack coming towards Novovasilivka. So that's interesting. Mentioned by the Ukrainians. So definitely happens. It definitely happens. Over in the Kupiansk front. This Kupiansk city, and again, nothing much over in the eastern and the southern flank. The battles is mainly still around Kupiansk. This time round, we only have a very general report of fighting at Kupiansk as well as towards Petropavlivka, and that's all. We have no news regarding this, teleportation, nor the northern front line here. What is the latest update? So far, nothing. The Ukrainian defense ministry, the Ukrainian mapping, Deep State UA have not dropped their mapping. And the pro-Russian side, the Ryba also didn't have much news. So Ukraine war becoming a bit slow, a bit quiet. I wonder what's happening right now. Today is the 31st of August. We are coming basically at the end of my prediction period. And like the Ukrainian forces, the Ukrainian front line will start to have some massive total collapse in 6 months. And by the end of this month, it will be 6 months. And so still have not happened. As I mentioned before, I did do a review, rework of the same thing. So I massaged the AI again during the launch of Grok 4, and I tried to do the same analysis, and eventually the updated one, for Grok 4, come out with the numbers that says that it will be end of September, 1 month from now. That means 1 month later. Like I say, this is not predictions, it's just analysis. So we shall wait and see. Ukrainians still able to do some counter-offensive here and there, but the lack of information is a bit surprising. And as well as I did mention, the Russians tend to, this is not the first time. I think the OGs, the people who have followed the DPA for a long time, who have known that the Russians always do not push or double down when any one of us would have. So they're always progressing super slowly. It's very weird. So anyway, this is Borova. Anyway, there's nothing over on the east. The fighting is mainly in the north with Bohuslavka mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. So probably some fighting in this sector. And so that's about it. So this frontline change is from 27th, so it's not related. Over in the Oskiu-Liman front. So this is Oskiu. And this is Oskiu, and this one is the Liman front and the northern flank of the Liman front. So in this sector here, let me push in this way. Okay. So fighting is reported at Kharkivka, Druzhlyubivka, Novy Maya. So previously, we do understand the Ukrainians counter-attack. This one we already noted previously. Russian forces attack at Kharkivka. Fighting is reported at Chandriholove. Drobisheve is mentioned. It was probably shelled. Fighting is reported at Stavki, probably coming from Kolozyazi based on the previous frontline change in that area. So otherwise, the front line have not changed at all. As I said, there's no frontline changes in the past. Not much frontline changes in the past 24 hours. And fighting is reported still in Zarishne. So strategic situation largely the same. Not much change in this sector here. I think. No, but there's no news regarding Novomihailivka, which is kind of weird. So let's see. Pushing to the Liman Sivers front. So Liman is here. At the Liman Sivers front, interestingly, Dibrova was mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The front line have moved far away from Dibrova. So it's a bit weird that Dibrova is mentioned. Fighting is reported at Dronivka. Fighting at Serebryanka in the Sivers side. Then Sivers is attacked. Shelling is reported at Riznikivka as well as Svyatoporovsky. So that's the situation in this sector. You can see again, fighting is mainly in the northern half of Sivers. Moving on to the Bakhmut front. This is Bakhmut, and fighting is reported at Podilsky. So this is actually something new. I'll zoom in, as well as to Poshki. Shelling is reported at Konstantinivka. And we zoom in a bit. Podilsky is the first time mentioned. This is the first time Podilsky was mentioned by the Ukrainian side. Previously, it's always mentioned by the Russians, which is probably just some shelling report. But the fact that the Russians have some advanced positions already. I believe the Russians have already pushed out in Chasiv and attack directly into Podilsky is possible. So, which is why, and especially when the Ukrainians mention it, is the Ukrainians do not talk about the shelling in this way. So which means there is an attack. There's some ground attacks happening. So this is a new development, and we understood that the Russians are attacking Mykolaiivka as well as Chervony. So to Podilsky, in the flanking operation is possible. So let's see how this go. The front line here definitely is not reality. The lack of frontline updates in this sector here has been pretty overdue for now. And an important note is that we are getting close to Stinky. Imagine all the jokes we can talk about. So that's all from this Podilsky Chasiv region. Over in the Thorax front. Load. Okay, I gotta pause the video, let it load. Wait. So Thorax. This is Thorax City. So there is not many reports coming out from here. We have Berestov being mentioned. This Berestov. So they use blue probably. Russian forces probably going down the highway, attacking the fortification, defending Berestov. Berestov is too close to Konstantinivka for the Russians to take. So I think it's just in the direction of Berestov. Fightings reported Pleshievka as well as Katerinivka. So the front line probably is still here. There's some extended front line, and Ukrainians are probably fighting for their lives in this sector here. We shall see what's happening. This front line definitely is not the reality for now. And so that's all from the Thorax front. Nothing particularly stands out for me. Over in this northern flank of the Pokrov front, which is what I always call the Evil Rabbit. So at the Evil Rabbit, so as I mentioned, Russian Defense Ministry's report is back because Friday is always a summary of the whole week by the Russian Defense Ministry. So then because the 30th, this is the 30th report, right? So the Russians on the Saturday they have a report, so we have a bit more fighting reports. So fighting is reported at Rusinya, Poltavka, Shakove, Volodymyrivka. So this is pretty standard, which means the whole front line is actually being fought over. Nikanorivka, Suketsky, Rodinsky, Chervony Liman, and Novoekonomichny. So you can see with the Russian report is a bit more full. The whole front line is all attacked. But with the Russian report, we have Zoloty. So this is Ukrainian. Sorry, this is Ukrainian report. Okay, I'm wrong. So Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned a fighting at Zoloty Kolozias. So this actually confirms the presence of Russians still in this large gray zone in the east of Dobropilia. So this is Dobropilia. So this entire sector here is a massive gray zone because there is still no firm front line being established, at least not understood yet by most mappings. So the fighting at Zoloty Kolozias is interesting. I forgot that this is actually a Ukrainian report. I thought this is a Russian one. So because Ukrainian report would have heavier weight because they are talking about an attack directly by the Russians, which means the Russians are definitely still in the region. My own guess is that the Russians have a firm position at Kusherivka. This entire structure still exists, and I think this is probably all under Russian control, and the rest of these areas here is a bit more vague. So a fighting attack into Zoloty Kolozias, previously to Petrivka. I mean, all this is more sensible. But at this moment, this is just my speculation. I don't think we have much to understand how the hell is this happening around. Over in the Twin City, so we have let me zoom in this way. So just now as mentioned, Suketsky, Rodinsky, Chervony Liman, Novoekonomichny. Along the Twin City, we have fighting reported Mario Lubivka, Promin, Minokhrad, Pokrov, Vifrove, Novoyukrenka, Lysivka, Kotline, as well as Udashny. So the whole front line is still being fought over, and you can see, the entire front line. But largely, this line here is very static. I think even this line is actually static because there is no need for the Russians to really push hard. But this push, I think, is the more serious one, as I mentioned before, this is still the flanking operation. The Russians attempt to capture the road, this highway here, still have not fully realized yet, as the Ukrainians know the importance of keeping the road open. So fighting is largely over at Suketske and Rodinske. As you can see, the Ukrainians are going to hold the line as much as they can. Moving into the Koma front, so this is the north of Koma. Let's see how do I do this okay, let's do this like this. So there is geolocation of Russian forces advancing in the north of Horikove. So there's some push in the north. And then fighting is reported at Filia, Yalta. Interesting that they still mention Yalta. Nothing all along these areas, there's nothing. There's only shelling reported far away at Malo-Mikhailivka. And then we have the main fighting in this sector here, which I want to pull down a bit. So because a lot of relevant attacks being noted there. Fighting is reported over at Oleksandrograd. Novoselivka is mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So this success at retaking Novoselivka is not true. At least the Russians are still in striking distance. So probably coming from SITREP, which I believe the Russians have firmly captured it. So the front line should look something like this. And fighting is reported at Melievka, Shevchenko, Voronezh. Voronezh is mentioned by the Russians. Fighting is reported at Sosnivka. Also, this is also mentioned by the Russians. Voronezh is mentioned by the Russians. Correct. So let me do it like this. So and then fighting is reported over at Komishuvaha, which already have been captured by the Russian side. So and then Zeleny Pole somehow is being mentioned by the Ukrainians, although the front line have already moved. So that's all from this sector here of the Koma front. So yeah, so this is the main thing here. As you can see, if I make everything smaller, looks a bit more clearer. So the front line should be here, fighting towards Novoselivka is from Shevchenko. Voronezh is a direct attack, and from this position they can attack towards Sosnivka. And then this sector here, this is the front line already established. So fighting Melievka, Shevchenko, Komishuvaha. So that's the gist of how these things look like in this sector. Further south, we go into the Huyaipole sector. There's no reports of fighting in this sector here. And over in the Orikhiv and Kenyamsky sector, there's also no reports. The entire Zaporizhia front went quiet. Entire front line went quiet. And we go to the last front line at Kherson. And I want to wish, if you have a birthday, a happy birthday to you. And also remember to press the like button and subscribe. There's no reports at Kherson. Yes, so very easy. So thank you for watching. So that's all from the Ukraine war summary for the day of 1284 for the 30th of August. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.